I never thought my marriage would be the kind of story people whispered about behind closed doors. We were the couple others admired, at least on the surface. Claire was radiant, the kind of woman who could walk into any room and immediately draw attention. Her laughter was light, like wind chimes on a breezy day, and for the first 8 years of our marriage, I honestly believed I was the luckiest man alive. We met in college, me, an awkward engineering student who preferred quiet nights over parties, her, a pre-med student with a social circle so large I never understood how she remembered everyone's name. Somehow, she noticed me. Somehow, I made her laugh. And somehow, we fell in love despite the fact that she was everything I wasn't. When we got married, I thought it was the start of a forever kind of story. And for a while, it was. We bought a small house, filled it with books, coffee mugs, and promises. We spent Sundays cooking elaborate breakfasts, then lingering in bed just to talk about nothing at all. But slowly, so slowly I didn't see it happening, things began to change. It started after she finished her residency and joined a private clinic. The hours were long, and I told myself her exhaustion was the reason she came home later and later. She still smiled when she saw me, but it felt rehearsed. I'd ask about her day, and her answers became clipped, vague. She stopped telling me stories about her patients, which used to be something she loved to do. Our intimacy shifted too. It wasn't that she rejected me outright, it was more subtle than that. Fewer kisses in the morning. No more lazy Sunday mornings. I'd reach for her at night, and sometimes she'd turn to me, but it felt mechanical. Like she was fulfilling an obligation rather than wanting me. I chalked it up to stress. Medical work wasn't easy. And in truth, I was busy too, managing a new team at my firm, constantly putting out fires. We were both tired, so I let it slide. Then came the checkups. She told me she'd found a new gynecologist, someone more thorough, she said, rolling her eyes at the idea that I'd care. His name was Dr. Robert Lane. She said his clinic specialized in advanced women's health. I nodded and didn't think twice. Why would I? He was just a doctor. But her appointments with him were frequent. Too frequent. At first, it was just routine, every 6 months like most women do. But then she started saying she had to go back for follow-ups. I didn't pry. I trusted her. Maybe too much. One evening, she came home later than usual, wearing a dress I hadn't seen before. It was sleek, dark, with a subtle slit up the thigh. She looked stunning. When I asked where she'd been, she said she'd grabbed coffee with a colleague after an appointment. Was it something serious? I asked, trying not to sound worried. She smiled a little too quickly. Oh, nothing like that. Just some minor hormonal stuff we're monitoring. Something about the way she brushed it off didn't sit right. It wasn't her words. It was the way she avoided my eyes, how her hands were just a little too fidgety. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was imagining things. But then little details started piling up. The faint scent of cologne on her clothes. Unexplained texts she'd glance at, and then flip her phone over. The way she started paying more attention to her appearance before these appointments. The breaking point came one Saturday. We were supposed to have brunch with friends, but she said she had to stop by the clinic for a quick check-in. I offered to drive her, thinking I'd just wait in the car. But she immediately said, "No, it's fine. I'll just grab an Uber. I don't want you wasting your morning waiting around for me." That was the first time I felt the sting of suspicion in my chest. While she was gone, I sat at the dining table, staring at my coffee as it grew cold. I replayed the past few months in my head, the excuses, the distance, the way she seemed lighter after these visits, like some invisible weight had been lifted. When she came back, her hair was slightly tousled, her lipstick faded, but she was glowing. Not the tired glow of someone who'd been to a medical appointment. This was different. She kissed me on the cheek, humming softly, and went straight to the shower without another word. That night, lying next to her as she scrolled through her phone, I felt like a stranger in my own bed. I couldn't prove anything. I didn't want to believe it. But something inside me whispered that Claire wasn't just going to the doctor. And for the first time in our marriage, I didn't feel safe. The following weeks were a blur of quiet paranoia. I wanted to believe I was overthinking things, that I was reading too much into small coincidences. But my instincts wouldn't stop gnawing at me. Claire's behavior only made it worse. She was different. Warmer at times, almost guilty in the way she'd touch my arm or ask how my day was. But other times, she was distant, distracted, as if her thoughts were somewhere else entirely. I tried to bring it up gently one evening, as we were cleaning up after dinner. "Hey," I started, keeping my tone light. "You've been going to Dr. Lane's clinic a lot lately. Is everything okay? You can tell me if something's wrong." She froze for a split second before turning to me with a practiced smile. "It's just some routine follow-ups, hormonal stuff. Nothing serious, I promise." Her answer was calm, reassuring. But her eyes flickered with something I couldn't name. Fear? Guilt? I couldn't tell. I wanted to let it go. God, I wanted to. But the questions wouldn't stop looping in my head. Why so many appointments? Why all the secrecy? I started noticing more. Little things I'd never paid attention to before. She'd get text messages late at night and angle the screen away from me. She started buying new lingerie, beautiful, expensive pieces I hadn't seen her wear for me. And then, the lie. It was a Friday afternoon. She told me she was working late at the clinic with a colleague. But on my way home from work, I drove past the clinic by chance. It was dark. Closed. I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My heart pounded in my chest as the realization hit me. She wasn't there. She had lied. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I waited. I needed to be sure. The next time she had an appointment, I decided to follow her. I felt sick to my stomach even thinking about it, but I couldn't take the not knowing anymore. She left the house around 6 p.m., dressed like she was going on a date, not to see a doctor. I waited 5 minutes before getting into my car and driving after her, staying a few cars back. My heart nearly stopped when she pulled into a quiet street, not the clinic, but a private upscale apartment complex. I parked a safe distance away and watched as she got out of the car. Then he appeared. Dr. Robert Lane. I recognized him from a photo I had seen on the clinic's website. Tall, silver-haired, the kind of man who radiated confidence. He wasn't in a white coat. He was in a tailored shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking more like a man meeting a lover than a doctor greeting a patient. They didn't hesitate. He reached for her hand, then leaned in and kissed her, softly at first, then deeper, like they'd done it 100 times before. I swear I couldn't breathe. It felt like someone had punched me in the gut. I gripped the steering wheel, frozen, watching my wife melt into another man's arms. The woman I loved, the one I thought I knew better than anyone, was standing there kissing her doctor like it was the most natural thing in the world. They went inside together, laughing. And just like that, I was left alone in the car, staring at the empty driveway, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. I don't know how long I sat there. Minutes? An hour? Time felt meaningless. Eventually, I drove home in a daze. The house felt hollow, like it no longer belonged to me. I sat in the dark living room, waiting, thinking. 1,000 questions ran through my mind. How long had it been going on? Was it just physical, or was she in love with him? Did she even care about me anymore, or had she just been biding her time, lying to my face while running to him. When she finally came home, it was nearly midnight. She smelled faintly of a cologne I didn't recognize. She smiled at me like nothing was wrong, kissed my cheek, and said, "Sorry I'm late. The clinic was busier than expected." And I just nodded. I didn't tell her I knew. Not yet. I wasn't ready for the explosion. I needed time. Proof. A plan. That night, lying next to her as she slept peacefully, I stared at the ceiling, replaying the image of her in his arms. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't even cry. It was beyond anger. Beyond sadness. It was a hollow ache, like someone had reached inside me and taken something I didn't know I couldn't live without. I realized then that our marriage, the marriage I thought was unshakable, was already gone. But the worst part? I still loved her. The next few days felt like I was living in a shadow version of my life. On the surface, nothing changed. Claire still smiled at me over morning coffee. She still asked how my day was when I got home. She still kissed me goodnight. But now, every touch felt hollow. Every word felt rehearsed. I couldn't look at her without seeing him. I became quiet, observant. I started noticing all the little tells I had been blind to before. How she hummed after appointments. How her phone was always face down. How she'd go to the bathroom just to text someone privately. And when she thought I wasn't looking, she'd smile. That soft, dreamy smile. The same one she used to give me years ago. I couldn't take it anymore. I called in sick to work one day and went to a private investigator's office. It felt surreal, like I was in someone else's life, saying words I never imagined I'd say. "I think my wife is having an affair," I told him. He didn't look surprised. I guess he'd heard it all before. Within a week, I had the evidence. Photos of her leaving the clinic with him. Video footage of them meeting at his apartment. Even hotel receipts in her name. There was no more room for doubt. She wasn't just cheating. She was living a double life. The night I decided to confront her, it was raining. I remember sitting in the living room, the investigator's folder on the coffee table, my hands trembling. My heart felt heavy, but strangely calm. The storm outside matched the one inside me. She came home around 9 p.m., looking radiant in a way she never did for me anymore. Her hair was slightly tousled, her lips faintly swollen. She smelled like expensive cologne. "Long day?" I asked, my voice flat. She paused, blinking like she'd sensed something off. "Yeah," she said carefully. "Lots of patience. I'm exhausted." "Really?" I stood up slowly and walked toward her. "Or was it Dr. Lane this time?" She froze. Completely. For a moment, the air between us went still. Her face went pale, then flushed red. What are you talking about?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I simply picked up the folder and dropped it on the table. Photos spilled out, her laughing in his car, holding his hand, kissing him outside the apartment complex. Receipts. Timelines. Proof. She stared at the evidence like it was a bomb that had just gone off. Her hands trembled. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. "How long?" I asked quietly. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. "How long?" I repeated, my voice sharper now. Tears welled up in her eyes. It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she whispered. "I never meant to." "Never meant to what?" I cut her off, my voice shaking. "Never meant to fall into his bed? Never meant to lie to my face while you ran to him?" She flinched at my words. For a second, I saw a flicker of the woman I'd married, the one who used to love me. But it was gone just as quickly. "I was lonely," she said finally, her voice barely audible. "You've been so distant lately. We stopped connecting. I didn't I didn't plan it, but with him, I felt seen again. I laughed bitterly. Seen? Claire, he's your gynecologist. He was supposed to treat you, not. I stopped myself before I said something I'd regret. She stepped closer, reaching for my arm, but I stepped back. I couldn't bear her touch. I still love you, she said desperately. It didn't mean I stopped loving you. I lost myself. I didn't know how to fix what we had. Love? I shook my head. You don't do this to someone you love. Silence hung heavy between us. I realized then that there was no salvaging this. Even if she begged, even if she cried, even if she promised to end it, the trust was gone. And without trust, there's nothing left. I'm filing for divorce, I said finally, my voice calm, almost too calm. You can have the house if you want it, but we're done. She gasped, tears streaming down her face. Please don't do this. We can go to counseling. We can. No. I cut her off with a single word, because I knew that no amount of counseling could erase the image of her in his arms. She sank onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. But I didn't comfort her. I couldn't. I walked to the door, pausing only for a moment. I hope he was worth it, I said quietly, then left. It's been 6 months since that night. I moved into a small apartment across town. I've thrown myself into work, into rebuilding a life that doesn't revolve around someone who could betray me so easily. Claire tried to reach out at first. She sent messages, left voicemails, even wrote a long letter saying she made a mistake and that she still loved me. But I didn't respond. Because I've learned something important. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes the person you trust most is the one who cuts you deepest. And when that happens, the only way forward is to let go. I'm still healing. Some nights I wake up and the memories flood back like fresh wounds. But I remind myself that I survived it. And in a strange way, I'm grateful. Because now I know my worth. I know I deserve someone who won't throw away our life for a fleeting thrill. The storm is over. And slowly, I'm finding peace again.